With 2/3 of the Fuel Grand National season in the books, tonight marks the beginning of the final 11 races of the season, starting with the Marathon Dance with the Lady in Black. Hi, hello, and good evening, race fans. It's a beautiful, gorgeous sunset setting here in Darlington, South Carolina, as we're just outside of Florence at the Darlington Raceway for tonight's coverage of race number 1 of Season 7 of the Fuel Grand National Series, the PPG Paints Southern Classic. Welcome, everybody, to tonight's live intercast on the North American Sim Racing Network. My name is Trey Wright here up in the NESRN booth. And tonight marks not only the start of Season 7 of Grand National, but also the final 11 races of the 2025 season here in the Fuel Racing League Grand National season. It's been a fantastic season so far as you look at the last winner of the last couple of races here on the Grand National side of things. There's the 88 machine of Zach Rogers. Already trying to get back into the swing of things here, but a stacked field so far here this evening. 24 drivers in the server so far. We imagine that we will see a couple more drivers pop in about 5 minutes to go here in practice, but this is a special evening. You can't tell by a couple of these special looking schemes here tonight. It is the official throwback weekend of the Fuel Grand National season. A lot of drivers sporting some throwback cars, and we'll go over them here in just a couple of moments. But it's certainly giving a unique look here for a lot of these drivers here this evening. Trying to find our defending champion, Apollo Hyde, your points leader in the Fuel Sportsman Series right now, driving throwback here this evening, throwing it back to the Gran Turismo days in that number 16 Castrol Honda Civic. We get a look at that throwback machine, throwing it back to the 2000 Honda NXS of the Musion X Dome project, and Apollo's going to spin that car around there in the 16 machine. No harm, no foul. Driven by Ryo Mishigami. I'm probably butchering these names, I apologize, but a really fantastic looking scheme there out of that 16 machine, and unfortunately they will go to the garage area here. Trek Togger back with the Suburban Cowgirl Steakhouse machine in that number 60 car. We get a look at the running order. Apollo Hyde right now top of the boards. Don't worry, Hyde is not running the 16 car all season. They'll be back in the number 1 EE sports machine next week at Watkins Glen. Taking a look at some other drivers. Here is a special throwback. A lot of you old school NR fans, this is Dunloprod's number 74, 2011 Tremwell Knight of Camelot Racing, Scott Stublin, Chevrolet Camaro, Hershey's on the hood, a beautiful looking scheme here under the lights of the Darlington Raceway. We'll see what Dunn will be able to do here this evening, piloting that number 78 car, Ike Durbin, with a good-looking scheme as well. Throwing it back to D Driver, 1989 Ford Thunderbird, Ford Thunderbird, I should say, of Z Toys, driven by D Driver. Of course, Ike loves to give us some funny-looking schemes, as he's gonna get a big Darlington stripe there in that 86 machine. Here's Brendan Whitford, throwing it back to Steve Park's 1998 ride for the DEI. Got that diecast somewhere in my basement right in here. Let's see what Woodford is able to do. It's the first time we've seen him since the season finale about a month ago at Iowa. Let's see what he's able to do in that Castle machine. Castle Cleaning Products GM, I believe that's what he's throwing it back to. A couple more drivers. There's the 88 machine, Zach Rogers. See what he will be able to do here this evening with Saw Togger. And this is probably my favorite throwback of the evening, maybe because I am a little bit biased to this car, I will admit. This is Kirsten Bell. That's not Kirsten Bell. There we go. There's Kirsten Bell, the number 92 Shiori Novella. Throwback to Bobby Labonte's 2002 car from the NASCAR Cup Series. I painted this myself a couple of hours ago. And Kirsten looking to get a couple more wins here. Won a couple of the last races. One at Dover and at the Chicago Street Course. The last couple of races over on the Grand National side of things. A couple of cars spinning out. We get another look at Brendan Whitford's throwback there. We're going up to the number 29 machine. Trying to see why. Oh, there we go. All right, got it fixed up. This is Rich Roy's throwback to the Rocket Man, Ryan Newman. Getting that job done. Pretty much agriculturally back in 2003. Throwing it back to his Ryan Newman's Dodge Intrepid from the 2003 season. It is Rich Roy. And next to Roy, got Kenny Campos. Throwing it back to Doc Faustina. 1976 Dodge Charger. Doc Faustina Motorsports. Really great throwback looking scheme there for Kenny Campos and that number 79 machine. We'll see what Buddy Campos will do here this evening. This is Nicky Conti's Hot Topic. It's not a phase. Ford Thunderbird. Originally a Burger King car driven back in 1989 by Spencer Cunningham. See what Conti will do here over these next couple of moments. Currently 18th on the pylon so far in terms of practice. We'll go through the rest of the field. This is probably the sketchiest throwback sponsor in the entire series. In the entire lobby, I would say. This is Corbin Wentz's 08 machine, throwing it back. Get Nicky Conti's car off of there. Of course, the hotkeys have been given a little bit of trouble all day, but this is throwing it back to Kyle Larson's 2018 Chevy Camaro. Back when we didn't know that DC Solar was a Tier 1 Ponzi scheme. Beautiful looking car. Corbin doing a great job at painting this automobile. We'll see what he will do here this evening. There's Jesse Bowling, another car that I painted earlier on this afternoon. We'll keep the throwback stills up here. There's another look at that beautiful looking 08 machine. There's a look at Jesse Bowling's car, throwing it back to Ayrton Senna himself. The Williams Renault Racing, Rothman Williams Renault. Ayrton Senna drove that machine in 1994. Jesse Bowling throwing it back to that car. There's the 37 machine up at the top right-hand side of your screen. Vincenzo Focusato. Let's see what Vincenzo is throwing it back to. Throwing it back to Palmer Styles' Inglesby Flashback of Flash Racing from 2009. Couple of old school guys in the NR2003 scheme. The first time that we have seen that 37 Kodak car on track. We'll see what he will be able to do, and this is also one of my favorite throwbacks on the entire screen. And well, we saw it for a brief moment, but R.J. Bishop throwing it back to his old man, a 1996 Dirt Modified, driven by Ron Bishop, his father. So RJ will go back to the garage area to get some work done with about 10 seconds to go here in practice. And now, we're not going to get practice. We're going to go straight here into qualifying.
Drivers, to your cars.
We'll take another look at a couple of stills here from some drivers. First, getting a look at Tyler Stallhood's number 7 QVC Ford Thunderbird, driven by Jeff Bodine back in 1996. And an interesting thing about that car we'll bring up during hopefully one of the few runs that we have here this evening. This is Blake Warren's 2001 Chevrolet Monte Carlo, driven by Little E himself. Throwing it back to that fateful race in the Pepsi 400 in July 2001. Throwing it back to the Budweiser Speedway Classic from a couple of weeks ago. That race was certainly something. There's Corbin Wentz's car once again. And Emmy Schizzato throwing it back to the Aussie man himself. Marcos Ambrose's 2012 car for RPM, Richard Petty Motorsports. Laura Trinor. Good to see Laura back here in the Cup Series. Throwing it back to Denny Hamlin's 2006 Joe Gibbs Racing Daytona 500 winning car. We'll see what Laura will do on the grid here in a couple of moments. Tala Aziz back in the Cup Series after a month's hiatus, throwing it back to another mid-2010s legend. Throwing it back to Jeff Gordon's final ever ride at the Homestead Miami Speedway. We saw Apollo Hyde's machine. Haven't seen Bill Turner in the server yet. Hopefully we'll see him, but if we do, he'll be flying Mr. September's Skull Bandit colors here this evening. Saw RJ Bishop's machine and Rich Roy and Vincenzo Focusato. Haven't seen Rafaela Sorensen's Target Coors Light car. Sorensen right now 16th on the pylon in terms of qualifying, which will wrap up here in just a couple moments. We mentioned it last week during the exhibition race, but if Trip Moore will come into the server tonight, he'll be piloting Mark Martin's number 6 Valvoline Ford Taurus from 1999. Victor Nunez, who was towards the top end of the boards in terms of qualifying, throwing it back to another 2015 scheme, Kyle Busch's M&M's Crispy car. A couple more throwbacks in here. Crystal Bennett ditching the Red Bull logo, the Red Bull colors here for this week only, and piloting the Lowe's Mike Skinner throwback from 2000. Zach Rogers having a pretty regular scheme here this evening, but we're able to get a render done. Keon Daly throwing it back to John Andretti, a 2002 RPM Petty Enterprises car. And I believe that's all the throwbacks that we should have here this evening. Qualifying getting wrapped up here in just a couple of moments. And we'll go ahead and show these stills when we can during the race. But certainly looking like Apollo Hyde is going to get the pole position, and she will, with a pole time of 28.389 seconds here in qualifying. So we'll go ahead and get happy hour started. 5 minutes to go here in happy hour, and then we'll get you to the start of tonight's race here. A 94-lap contest at the Lady in Black, the Darlington Raceway. Getting ready to kick things off for season number 7 of the Fuel Grand National Series here from the track Too Tough to Tame. And we're back here at the Darlington Raceway, just a couple of minutes away from the open of tonight's 125-mile race here at the Darlington Raceway. We'll take a look at the qualifying standings coming into tonight. Looks like we have got 26 drivers. Rather, 25 drivers on the grid, so of course, the graphic that I just put into the system is one, of course, wrong. Tate Dorsey, a late addition in car number 18, but Apollo Hyde at the top of the qualifying chart with Zach Rogers right beside her. Jelaine Sims making her return to the North American Sim Racing Network, qualified in third. Victor Nunez up in fourth. Dunlaprade rounded out the top five. Kirsten Bell rounding out the first three rows. Ike Durbin, RJ Bishop, Vincenzo Focusato, and Crystal Bennett rounding out your top 10 here this evening as we get a good look at Blake Warren's Speedway Classic, throwing it back to Dale Jr.'s 2001 scheme. Laura Traynor and Denny Hamlin's number 11 car. Crystal Bennett in the 84. Haven't seen the 18 yet out on track, but Jelaine Sims is going to be one of the ones to watch here this evening. As Blake Warren will come around. A big shout out to Blake, who will be given the command to start this race. We'll go over Blake here in just a couple later on in the race, but he is the one that is the primary sponsor for this evening's race, so a huge shout out to Blake Warren. He'll be giving the command to fire the engines here in just a couple of minutes once happy hour will commence. We'll get things started for tonight's contest. The big thing here at Darlington, like it always is, tire wear is going to be the name of the game for this evening. And my apologies, it looks like it is Tate Dorsey who is piloting the number 18 machine, so not Bill Turner. So it is Bill Turner's car, but it is Tate Dorsey who will be driving that automobile. There's Carl Childress, late addition on the entry list, so we didn't have a render of his throwback made. Of course, pretty obvious to see what his throwback he is throwing back to. Wrangler jeans, number 3 machine, the Intimidator himself before he was the Man in Black. And of course, Jelaine Sims throwing it back to the Biffster, Greg Biffle in that 06 machine. So happy hour getting ready to kick off here, or rather getting ready to end, as Apollo Hyde, the pole sitter, will lead this field to the grid here in just a couple of moments. And once everybody will line them up and grid them up, we'll send things down to Mr. Blake Warren to give the command for tonight's contest here of the PPG Paints Southern Classic.
Drivers, to your cars.
Thank you to Fuel for allowing us to put on an unofficial throwback race, and North American Sim Racing Network for broadcasting tonight's race. With that being said, welcome to the PPG
Drivers,
Paint Southern
start
Classic
your
at Darlington.
engines.
And drivers, start your engines!
And a fantastic command to fire the engines given by Blake Warren himself. Apollo Hyde sitting on the front row in the 16. Zach Rogers starting next to her in row number 1. 25 cars starting tonight's 94-lap race. Pit speed, 45 miles an hour. Pit run for these guys, about 30 to 32 laps here as we take a look at the track map for Darlington. And already, Chevy Camaro pace car heading down the pit road. It's Apollo Hyde, the champion of Season 6, will lead this field of 25 automobiles strong through the race's restart zone, ready to get the green flag to get this shebang started. It's showtime in South Carolina. We're green flag racing at the Lady in Black. And Zach Rogers will lead the way in the number 86 machine. A couple of drivers already getting some Darlington stripes after lap number 1. Here on lap 2, Rogers in the lead, Hyde in second, Nunez rounding out the podium. Field goes down the Boeing back straightaway. Everybody single file, and problems already for the 74 of Dunlaprade. Mentioned in the pre-race that he was having some pedal issues in that Hershey's machine. We'll see if it may be just a penalty that Laprade is serving in the 74 car. But so far, so good on the start of this race. A couple of drivers struggling towards the tail end of the field. We saw in the opening lap that Jesse Bowling got into the outside wall, and he's going to get into the retaining wall there. Same thing with Corbin Wentz. They're off the pace, and RJ Bishop is as well. A couple of drivers towards the tail end of the field, but up front, it is still very much a hornet's nest as Victor Nunez underneath of Apollo Hyde. Taking that second spot away from Hyde. Nunez with only one start so far here on the North American Sim Racing Network. That came all the way back at the first ever race we did here for the Grand National Series at Daytona, where Blake Warren had some issues, to say the least, in that race. And for the most part, kind of LePage the field right at the end there. But like we were talking about for this track, and again, we saw it a little bit there, and we'll show you the graphic once again. These guys can go about 36 laps on a tank of gas, but the biggest thing for Darlington is the tire wear. As Jesse Bowling has pulled his car into the garage area to call it a day after only couple of laps being ran. And again, like everybody says, turns 1 and 2 are vastly different from turns 3 and 4. See it there, of course. Everybody knows the story of the minnow pond over in turn 4 and why this track has such an oblong shape. That's why tire wear has been just the name of the game here at Darlington, especially on this older version that Tate Dorsey made a couple of years ago, and been able to update here for a fantastic rendition of the Lady in Black. Top 10 cars in line with each other. Nearly saw smoke in the back, and we did. Smoke on the front straightaway. I believe it was Rich Roy and Tate Dorsey that may have gotten together. We remain green here. I believe it was just a single car spin. Corbin Wentz into the outside wall off of turn number 4. No yellow flag on the speedway just yet, as Wentz is in danger of going a lap down here. He is about 22 seconds off the pace. And yeah, he is just very, very tight right now in that DC Solar machine. Might have to file some Chapter 11 bankruptcy on those Goodyear Eagles right now. Just trying to keep that machine off the wall, and actually he is very loose in turns 3 and 4. He's very tight through 1 and 2 and 3 and loose in 3 and 4. That's not uncommon to see here at the track. Too tough to tame. But right now, Zach Rogers has been taming the Lady in Black so far. Has led all 8 laps of tonight's contest. But Victor Nunez has been putting a pretty solid charge right behind that number 88 machine. Couple more cars getting a little bit squirrely out of the corner. I believe that was, in fact, Rich Roy that got squirrely in turns 3 and 4 off of the front straightaway, as Brendan Whitford will knock the wall down, that 131 machine. Here come the race leaders. Corbin Wentz will peel that 08 machine down the inside out of harm's way. Everybody looking to get on the go here. Fastest lap of the race belonging to RJ Bishop, running a 29.427 second lap. The fall off hasn't reared its ugly head just yet. We're only 10 laps into this race, but once we start getting to about lap 15 to 20, that's where the fall off really starts to fall off a cliff, if you will. We saw it here with a lot of guys in practice. Accidentally hit the wrong button there. Accidentally turned the ticker off. Nunez trying to go to the outside of that number 88 machine. They're going to get in the outside wall just a tad. No harm, no foul. You can run that way here at the Lady in Black. You can use the walls as your advantage. Of course, everybody knows the story of the first race here back in 1950, 75 years ago this year. In fact, 75 years ago this weekend was the first ever Southern 500 here at the Darlington Raceway. Johnny Mant was able to win using truck tires after an 8.5-hour affair for 500 miles here at Darlington. And when this track was initially built, the apron was the intended racing surface. The banking was seen as an emergency access road for people that ran out of talent, if you will, to spare a Ryan Newman quote. But everybody realized that, hey, this is the fastest way around the track. They're able to rip the outside wall. That is certainly the way to go, as Trek Togger getting past there on the inside in that Suburban Cowgirl Steakhouse number 60 machine, sliding up the racetrack, a reverse slide job. Nearly caught the tail end of the 16. Might be in the way of Crystal Bennett. Crystal had to get off the gas. Here comes Jelaine Sims down to the inside of Bennett's machine. Buddy Campos also pulling down on the inside. Togger up the racetrack, pinches the 37 of Vincenzo Focasato into the outside wall. Trouble on the front straightaway. Someone going around. It's Rich Roy in the 29, broadside to the field. Laura Trenor just barely gets around the 29, but they're into the outside wall. No caution out, incredibly. I thought for sure that was going to be a multi, as for the second time in this race, I believe Rich Roy smoke screen in the front straightaway. I think he got a little bit loose off of the corner. We'll take a look and see what happened there on a break. Tate Dorsey in the outside wall, and now RJ Bishop spinning in turn 4. Dorsey down on the inside. He'll stay out of harm's way. Still no multi-car incidents yet. Carl Childress into the outside wall will let the leaders pass. And now Rogers in the outside wall trying to get around the 131 of Whitford. This is really good racing right at the front of this field. Whitford blocking the inside lane. Going up on the high lane is the 54, who's got a rear end full of Apollo High. She's gunning that 16 machine to the inside of Nunez. Nunez, a couple of love taps off the safer barrier, and here comes that 16. Apollo Hyde up in second. Now trying to find that 88 machine. We got cars on pit road. Rich Roy and RJ Bishop hitting the pit area right here and right now. Like we're talking about with Victor Nunez. Having a solid night so far here this evening. Of course, like we were talking about in the pre-race show. Pretty good looking throwback machine there for Nunez. Rafaela Sorensen spinning on the inside. Nunez jamming on the brakes, got into the outside wall. Sorensen broadside on the front straightaway. Just going to pull that 42 car down the inside, and a tough break for Rafaela Sorensen. We have had a couple more retirees. Corbin Wentz and Trek Togger have pulled their automobiles behind the pit wall as we get a good look at Rafaela Sorensen's machine. Trying to show Sorensen throwing it back to Juan Pablo Montoya's 2009 Chevrolet. Sorensen trying to get that 42 machine back up and going. Their significant other, Emi Schizzato, winning the race. The exhibition race last weekend at the Pensacola Roval. A lot of incidents all the way around the track, but still no multi-car incidents. That was nearly a multi there. Bishop and LaPrade getting to know each other very, very well. LaPrade currently 1 lap down to Sorensen's 2. And Bishop right now currently 4 laps down. He has not had a good start to this race. Dominated the first part of that race at Pensacola that we were just talking about Unfortunately, kind of screwed the pooch on pit strategy, tried to get back up to the front. Had a shot at the back end of Schizada before spinning out on the final lap of the race, but still rallied back to finish in second. There's Tala Aziz smacking the outside wall off of turn number 4 there for a brief moment. There's Aziz in that number 14 machine. Throwing it back to Jeff Gordon. I don't know why Corbin Wentz's car continues to show up, but throwing it back to Jeff Gordon's car. Final ever 24 car that Gordon ran before, of course, Dale Jr. had his concussion issues back in 2016 and 17. That's what Tala is throwing back to. A little bit wide off of the corner there for Schizado and Bishop. Like we were talking about for Schizado, throwing it back to throwing it back to Shane Van Gisbergen before Shane Van Gisbergen, the Aussie himself of Marcos Ambrose, as Schizado will leave the server for a brief moment. Good-looking paint scheme, and a lot of good-looking paint schemes for a lot of these guys, and a lot of Darlington stripes right in 3 and 4. Aziz all over the place, and now got some pit stops here on lap number 24. A couple of stragglers in the back with Whitford and Durbin. Durbin, your Augusta Sportsman winner. We'll see what he'll be able to do. Is getting a good look at Blake Warren, sponsor of this race, and taking a look at some of his stats here at Darlington. Won the NNSCRA Next Gen event last December 25th, as he gets held up there a little bit by Carl Childress. He's got only one win here in the 6 races that he has competed in prior to tonight. 2 top 5s, 5 top 10s, and a pole, and an average finish of 7.17 for the B-Man himself, and he'll hit the outside wall there just a little bit. Got some more cars coming down the pit lane. Tate Dorsey and a Skull Bandit, number 18 machine. Getting a good look at the car that was originally supposed to be driven by Bill Turner. Dorsey piloting that car here this evening. Not quite September here, but it will be in a couple of days. Of course, it's Labor Day weekend here. Dorsey running that Mr. September scheme. Of course, Harry Gant still remains as the oldest driver to win here in the NASCAR Cup Series. I believe he was something like 52 days or years old. Everybody really starting to spread out here besides the top 2 drivers, as Rogers and Apollo Hyde still all on top of one another. And here comes Hyde to the inside. We might get our first lead change of the night. Hyde was trying to battle at Iowa with that 88 machine, but Rogers off of turn 2. Really strong run out of that Camaro. Here comes the Honda of Hyde, however, trying to get things going right here and right now. Those two on top of one another out of turns 3 and 4, right at the stripe to begin lap number 29. On the tire run, if these guys baby the throttle a little bit, as Hyde has a little bit of a ledge to the inside, but can't quite get to the inside of the 88 car. We approach our opening set of pit stops here this evening, and a caution-free affair, but certainly not an incident-free affair. We got one car in the pit lane. That's Crystal Bennett's Mike Skinner throwback, making their initial pit stop of the evening. Jelaine Sims has fallen back a little bit in the 06 car. Right now, 2.5 seconds back of the leaders. Dorsey trying to catch back up here, and now Spinner on the front straightaway. That's Durbin and the 3 of Childress. Does that warrant a multi? 2 cars going around, and Ike Durbin's competitive night will come to a close. He was running in 16th at the time. Now for the race lead, Hyde underneath of Rogers. This time she'll complete the pass. But here's Zach Rogers to the inside. The crossover here at the Lady in Black. Textbook as it can be. Dorsey trying to catch the tail end of that number 88 car is now Apollo Hyde. Trying to get back-to-back wins here in the North American Sim Racing Network, and Dorsey on old or newer tires trying to make that outside lane work to try to get his lap back. Wasn't quite able to do it. These two still on top of one another, and Jelaine Sims waiting for these guys to potentially make a mistake. And we got a lot of cars coming on the pit road. I saw Laura Trinor, Ike Durbin, Tyler Stallhood among the drivers that have come down the pit lane. Tala Aziz will make their initial stop of the evening. And now Apollo Hyde will also come down in car number 16. Buddy Campos into the outside wall off of the corner as Hyde will make her first pit stop of tonight's contest here on lap number 32. Like we said, these guys could do about 30 to 32 laps in terms of tire wear, 36 if you're driving like a turtle. That's when it comes for the fuel, but Zach Rogers staying out an extra lap. Schizano, a little warp job there in the 9. She's into the outside wall, nearly back down the racetrack in front of the leader of Rogers. And Zach is trying to play the strategy game here just a little bit. Trying to pull the outside, rather... trying to pull the overcut here. As Warren nearly turns Schizano down the back straightaway. Campos warping in and out and away is Apollo Hyde in car number 16. Nikki Conti is in. Still nothing there for Rogers and Helene Sims. Jelaine a little loose off of the corner. Blake Warren will get by. Pit cycle has begun here over the course of these last couple of laps. I believe Rogers will be coming down this time by, would be my guess. And he indeed is right on the money, right at the lap 36 mark. Rogers will come down. He will take his initial pit stop of the evening. Nearly slid on pit road. Pit road speed 45 miles an hour. Did he potentially go over? Now trouble for Kirsten Bell. I think Bell was trying to come down the pit lane and missed it. It's Jelaine Sims, Blake Warren, all on the same strategy as the 88 car. Will hit the pit area as well. We're going to have to see if the 88 car does have a penalty after smoking the tires coming into pit entry. He's going to overshoot his pit stall by just a little bit. Sims coming in hot, very hot for the 06. But she'll be out and away. 4 tires going all the way around. Zach Rogers looking for that 16 car. There's the 16. And I believe Rogers might be in a little bit of trouble. I believe this race lead is going to cycle back out in favor of Apollo Hyde, but Rogers having 4 lap fresher tires, that is pretty much a godsend here at the Darlington Raceway. And by the looks of it, it doesn't look like Zach Rogers sped on pit lane, so he will cycle up to second. Emmy Schizado will come down the pit lane. I imagine Kirsten Bell will come down the service area as well. So everybody all jumbled up here on the opening set of pit stops in tonight's contest. Trenor having to get out of the way of a couple of lead lap cars. 3 cars out of the race, 22 still on track. Rafaela Sorensen down to the inside is Schizado out and away, and a lot of lap traffic for Apollo Hyde to potentially deal with here. Vincenzo Focusato being shown in the second spot right behind Kirsten Bell, but they have not made their initial pit stops of the evening just yet. We'll see if Bell will come down, and they're not going to. It's a little bit interesting that neither Bell, actually no, Bell and Focusato did come down just then, and Schizado coming down as well. So now the race lead will cycle back around to Apollo Hyde and Victor Nunez as the top 2 guys on the pylon. Zach Rogers about 5 seconds back of these top 2 guys. And incredibly, 39 laps into a run here at Darlington. It hasn't been incident-free, but it has been caution-free so far. A couple of single-car spins here and there as somebody smoking down the front straightaway. Couldn't tell who it was. I believe it may have been Bishop. He is very slow and will come back down the pit lane. It's been a really, really tough go for RJ Bishop so far this evening. Of course, he is a road course specialist. We'll have to see what he will be able to do next week at Watkins Glen. Of course, taking a look at the Season 7 schedule. Got Darlington here this evening, then we got Watkins Glen International on next Wednesday, September 3rd. Then we go to the Bristol Motor Speedway. I unfortunately got to update this graphic, but there are a couple of races that are special event, like this evening. Tonight was the throwback race. Then for the Bristol race, it is the Shop Local Speed, or the Shop Local race. Rafaela Sorensen spinning off of turn number 4 out of harm's way. Then we go to Brooklyn, Michigan, then Kansas, then Mid-Ohio. We go to Las Vegas, and hopefully we're using the same version of Las Vegas as we did last week or a couple of days ago for the Sportsman race, because that was probably one of the best races that we have seen here in a long time on the North American Sim Racing Network. Got one stopped on the outside. That is Carl Childress, pinning that 3 car on the exit of turn number 4, trying to bring it down to the inside. Brendan Whitford nearly running him over. Then we go to Talladega for another special race. It's a movie car for the Ash Industries Silver Screen Showdown from the Talladega Super Speedway. Then we'll go to Pikes Peak on Wednesday, October 22nd. Then our Halloween race, still no venue decided on that yet. My personal opinion, I think we should race that as the Hallowdega edit that Seth Cole did a couple of years ago. That'll be the penultimate race of the season. Of course, we'll wrap out Season 7 and 2025 with our season finale at the Homestead Miami Speedway for all 11 races. The Sportsman the Grand National season calendar here after tonight. But Apollo Hyde kicking butt and taking names right now in that 16 machine as we're just about at the halfway point. Hyde has opened it up to about a second and couple thirds lead over Victor Nunez. Next time by will be the halfway point here in tonight's contest. Hyde, Nunez, and Rogers, your top 3 as of right now. And while we're at the halfway point, I believe it's no time like the present. Go ahead and send it downstairs to a little bit of a snap-on race break here at the Darlington Raceway. What do you say we go downstairs and go through the field, presented by Fram? So Apollo Hyde leads the way. We got one stopped on the inside. This might be our first caution of the evening, and it is right at the halfway point in tonight's race. The yellow flag flies on lap number 46. And right as we are going to go into our snap-on race break, caution number 1 of the evening finally flying. You could not have scripted that any more annoying as we were going into a sponsored segment. And of course, we will go into that sponsored segment later on, but right at halfway, a couple of cars going sideways. I believe that was the 3 and maybe the 131 that got tangled up, or maybe I believe it was the 3 and the 29 that got tangled up. But we will go ahead and take a look at the replay after. Take a look and see these guys come down the pit lane. It's Apollo Hyde leading this field down here, and a couple of drivers staying out on the lead lap. One of them, Tyler Stallhood, and I think I see, trying to see where Laura Traynor is out. I forgot about that, the pronunciation, Laura, so my apologies. Well, Laura was actually involved in that incident, I believe, as they and Rafaela Sorensen have pulled their automobiles behind the pit wall. There's Apollo Hyde getting 4 fresh Goodyear Eagles. We'll see if anybody tries to pull the strategy game here. Hyde out first, and Zach Rogers up. Oh, Jelaine Sims gets turned by Victor Nunez on the pit lane. That's going to cost Nunez a couple of spots, potentially, as Kirsten Bell took that away. Sims trying to get that 06 rerouted. And that was a very, very, very tough break for both of those drivers. And Zach Rogers back into the fray here in car number 88. So we're going to go ahead and take a look and see what happened to put us under the first caution flag of the evening. It's right in turns 3 and 4. As our first multi-car incident. Oh, we had quite an incident, it looks like. Oh, this is going to involve Blake Warren, I believe. Oh, still have that up, but right there you see the 29 and the 8 machines getting turned into one another. Trying to see if we can get that pulled off. So we're going to do this old school style here for a brief moment, but going to go back up. I think Rich Roy was trying to come off of the wall and nowhere for Blake Warren to go. I think I did that to Blake Warren back at a race at Boston in 2021, except my controller died. I don't know what the issue there was with the 29. Warren goes sideways hard into the wall with the 3 of Childress. Schizzato nearly in the back end of the 3 car as well. Warren is just going to barely nose that Budweiser Camaro into the inside wall. And after a lot of different incidents tonight, we have our first multi-car incident. And we will get another look at it here before we'll go back to the green flag. But not what you want, especially for Blake Warren, who was running up inside the top 10 at the time. And just a very tough scenario there. Take a look and see what happened from Warren's POV. Up the racetrack goes to 29, and just trying to catch it there was Blake. Trying to catch it, just barely noses it in. Nothing you could really do as Blake trying to get that 8 machine back the right direction. And we'll watch it once again here in real time. Following with the 29 machine. Coming down low, Warren was in the way, and I think Schizzato was the one that punted the 3 of Childress into the outside wall. Nothing you can really do there if you are those drivers. As Childress bringing that Camaro down to the inside, and right on time, we're going to get the 1 to go signal here. I feel really bad that sponsor segment was right at the beginning, right as we were going through the field. That's when we decided to have our first multi-car incident of the evening. But Apollo Hyde, the race leader, choosing the outside lane. And we saw Zach Rogers work a beauty of that right off of the start of this race. Rogers will take the inside of row number 1. Vincenzo Focusato and Jelaine Sims in row 2. Sims and Nunez will assume their respective positions. How about Nicky Conti? Right now on the outside of that 3rd row. Crystal Bennett and Kirsten Bell in row 4. Rounding out the top 10, Blake Warren and Tala Aziz. 20 cars remaining on the track. 5 of them are in the garage area right now. Jesse Bowling, Corbin Wentz, Trek Togger, Rafaela Sorensen, and Laura Trainer. All in the garage area. Coming around here to go back to the green flag. It'll be 42 laps to go here at the Lady in Black. Apollo Hines, the control car. We'll see what she'll do here on the restart in that number 16 Castrol machine. Zach Rogers looking for a good jump on the inside. Coming to the line. Green flag back out of the air. 42 to go from Darlington already. Ike Durbin getting spun around. Same thing with Bell in the 92. Upside down going Tala Aziz. Same thing with Schizzato. I believe the caution flag is going to come right back out. Still nothing yet. As I believe... Yeah, nothing on from the caution flag just yet. I'm very surprised that was not a caution flag. And now the caution flag will finally come back out here as everybody was cycling back around, so that indeed will be a yellow, and Durbin spun the tires right on the start, and just everybody spun the tires right on the start. Just wanted to make sure that that was going to be a caution flag as everybody trying to get resituated. How about this? Zach Rogers took the race lead back. Ooh, everybody trying to hold back up here. Waiting behind the caution car, and we are going to see if this is going to be just a quickie yellow or these guys are going to come back around. Jelaine Sims thought about coming down the pit lane. Blake Warren will. Same thing with Kirsten Bell, so I do not believe this will be a quickie yellow. No, Warren is going to be the lucky dog there. How about that for Warren? I don't believe that this will be a quickie yellow. We'll see what the pace car will do here. And it, in fact, won't be. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at that restart, because that was about as janky as restarts get. So right now on the replay, trying to go back to Ike Durbin, trying to get a good look at Ike. Yeah, he spun the tires right on the start and was immediately out of control. But back up into here, Focusato did not get going and just jammed that entire outside lane up, and it was just a big, big accordion back in there. You see Kirsten Bell getting turned by the 14 of Tala Aziz, and the 9 of Schizzato is going to get into it as well, and all three of those cars are going to warp into each other and go upside down. Aziz and the 9, actually I think Bell didn't go upside down, I believe it was just the 9 and the 14. Who else got into that? That was Tyler Stallhood that ran right into the passenger side of that Marcus Ambrose throwback. Stallhood and that Jeff Bodine throwback. Goodness gracious. It's certainly not what you want for a lot of these guys. We're going to take a couple of different looks at this. Starting, of course, with Kirsten Bell's POV. Because that stack up there from Durbin, that was pretty much unrelated. You see everybody just stacking up into one another, and Kirsten tried to get to the inside, but spin that Interstate Batteries throwback around and see all the chaos from behind. And we'll see what Schizzato saw, I believe. Nobody pulled that. Nobody else really was knocked out of the race after this incident. This is the view from Schizzato. I think she saw the checkup, and through the smoke, Aziz just popping at the last possible second, and upside down goes the 9 machine. A tough, tough break. And one more look at the jam up in time here. Yeah, just nothing that Focusato could really do there. Just an unfortunate situation for a lot of these guys. But right on the start, the 88 machine taking the race lead back here. How about that for Zach Rogers? But this is where the witching hour really starts for these guys. 2 cautions back to back. And we ran the first 45 minutes of first 45 laps of this race perfectly caution-free. And we're going to go ahead and change that one thing there, that replay cover, just so everybody knows that this is in fact a Grand National broadcast. That was the last thing that I was trying to remember to do, but unfortunately forgot. Do we not have the Grand National wipes? Trying to see if we have the Grand National wipes. I don't know where the Grand National replay wipe is. That is troubling, to say the least. Yeah, I guess the Grand National replay wipe is finito, no more. That is very unfortunate for you guys, but nonetheless, we're gonna get back to racing here. We're not quite at the end of this race. No, we're not. I promise you guys that. The field is in turn number 2. Getting a great flyby on a beautiful late summer evening just outside of Florence. A couple of drivers spinning the tires as RJ Bishop catching back to everybody. Not sure what's going on, but hey, I believe Tate Dorsey is going to be in the 3rd spot, coming back to the green flag here. 37 to go at the line. It'll be Rogers looking to retain that race lead on the inside, Hyde on the outside of row 1. Dorsey, Sims, Warren, Nunez, Conti, and Bennett, the top 10. We'll see if we can get this restart done nice and orderly here for take 2. Field going back towards the line, waiting to get the signal from Barney the flagman. Green flag back out of the way. Everybody's spinning the tires once again. That was Warren. And now Focusato going around in the 37, and a big mess on the front straightaway once again. Caution flag back out for the 3rd time, and we are 1 caution away from going single file restarts. After a couple of restarts, a shame by the field here. Caution number 3 out on the speedway. And this time Apollo Hyde got the jump on Rogers coming out of the back straightaway. A little bit unfortunate there. Again, like we said, the witching hour. We knew that this was going to happen, and it once again happened indeed. A lot of drivers spinning tires. I think Warren was the first one to spin. These guys continue to make their way around. Now we're going to see if anybody comes down the pit lane. Rogers is going to come down. Same thing with Sims. Because right now, 36 to go. And now everybody's going to come down. I believe, yeah, everybody is noticing, hey, we got 36 laps to go. We can do this thing on a tank of gas. Wave around cars will go around. Hyde leading this field down the pit area. And yeah, now with 35 to go, with all these caution flags that we're running right now, we'll get at least one or two more caution flags. Then we'll get this race restarted. I think, yeah, this works out for the strategy of Rogers to a T right now. Because he ran that strategy on 36, right to the gun, 36 laps. For Hyde, I don't know. Hyde is going to have to be really, really conservative. And Jelaine Sims, how about that? They'll get the race lead. Typically see some bow time banners here for Bojangles. Right now it's Joe time. Jelaine Ruby Sims coming off of the pit lane first. believe Victor Nunez will come off second. Or did Kirsten Bell take 2 tires there? I believe Bell may have taken 2 tires. We'll go ahead and take a look what happened. I just want to make sure that Kirsten indeed took 2 tires on that run. No, just a gas and go for Bell. That's a bold strategy, Cotton. I don't know how that's going to play out, to be quite honest with you, Batman. But looking at the replay, Warren spin the tires on the restart, unfortunately. And again, it's just going to be a big jam up. That was some marker brakes there from Buddy Campos, getting right into the back end of Focusato. Woodford was caught up in it. Same thing with the 9. And Campos is going to get turned by Childress in the 3. And just another restart of shame for these guys. We'll see if we indeed get a single file restart after this, but nothing we could really do. We're going to get one onboard look, and it will be from the front end, or it will be from the front end of Buddy Campos. We're going to go with a helmet cam here for Kenny Campos. Right on the restart. A big check up on the inside. He just did not let off. I'm not sure what happened. And got turned at the last second. Tough break. Tough scenes here, unfortunately, for a lot of these guys. Get a good look at Blake Warren, who stayed out after spinning the tires. Believe Rich Roy going to the tail end of the longest line. A lot of drivers hitting the brakes hard. Victor Nunez, he might be in danger of flat spotting his tires here, as Kenny Campos down the pit lane for a restart of shame. And Victor Nunez, oh, did Victor speed on pit road? I believe he did. Trying to see in the in-game chat here. I think it might just be an end of the longest line penalty for Nunez for tapping the brakes a lot. I think that's what we're hearing from the tower. But here we go. Nunez down the pit lane. I believe it's going to be a penalty here for Nunez regardless, but I think he's going to potentially come down, put 4 fresh Goodyears on, since, hey, it's an EOL penalty anyway. So you might as well put 4 Goodyear Eagles on. Fill that gas tank full of Sunoco Racing fuel, because, hey, you don't know if this could be the final restart with 33 to go. This could be the race here. And if these guys do have to come down the pit lane once again, which I do not believe that they should, these guys, they're going to be running on ice skates. Like, it's going to be looking like the Prudential Center during the New Jersey Devils season at the end of this run, if this goes caution-free, which I don't think it will. But Blake Warren stayed out. Kirsten Bell just took gas and go. Everybody on the front row has no tires. We've seen Warren spin the tires once already. 4 tires for pretty much everybody else on the grid, starting with the 16 of Hyde. They got Jelaine Sims, who's looking for the spin and win. Zach Rogers, who has led the most laps here tonight with 35. Crystal Bennett waiting in the wings. Got Nikki Conti up here as well. The base car down the pit area. And this is going to be one hell of a restart for these guys. Warren and Bell on the front stretch awaiting the green flag. Take 3 to get this race restarted. Green flag back out in the air. Warren spinning the tires a little bit once again. Another jam up on the inside. But we will keep it green for now. And Crystal Bennett to the point. But here comes Ruby Sims. Jelaine Ruby Sims right on the back end of that 92 machine. And they'll go down to the inside. No, we'll hold off. 32 to go, now trying to utilize that outside lane. Here comes the crossover. Sims trying to go to the inside. Bell cuts her off. Now Sims has got to run. Here comes Rogers to the inside of Hyde. And I think this battle that we saw at Iowa a couple of weeks ago between Rogers and Sims is going to kick back up once again, because Rogers is going to track down and hunt down Bell here pretty shortly. But Jelaine Sims looking to get the job done here in that Granger number 06. Oh, off for the front straightaway, turn 4. Tyler Stallhood spinning that Supra around. Stallhood throwing it back to Jeff Bodine. One, quite a lot. Buddy Campos being shown a black flag right now. I believe he might end up pulling it behind the wall. But Bell running a pretty good race right now on those old tires. Again, Bell came down during that initial pit stop. So again, those tires aren't as worn out. Everybody's got about maybe 2 or 3 laps of green flag racing on them prior to that restart. So I don't think Bell is in a terrible position. I don't know, 29 to go. This is going to be a very, very interesting race to the end. 20 cars on the racetrack. 5 of them are in the garage area. RJ Bishop hard into the outside wall, the top side of Schizzato. And Rogers trying to track down Bell and get around. Shiori Novella. Bobby Labonte throwback. That 88 car just trying to get around that 92. He might have a run off the corner. Here it comes to the inside. Bell trying to hold on the outside. It doesn't look like it's going to be to any avail. Here comes that 88 car down through the corner. Those two side by side off of Old Turn 4 here at Darlington. Bell got the run off of the corner. Can they keep it going through 3 and 4? I don't know. This is going to be close off of here. Somebody's spinning down the front straightaway. No harm, no foul. Rogers will take the spot away from Bell, and now Nunez hard into the inside wall. Back up the track he goes. Single car spin, but that was a titanic shot for Nunez. And he will likely retire from this race, and that was hellacious. Caution is not out, remain green, and Nunez will take that car behind the wall as Rogers now trying to track down Jelaine Sims with 20 to go. Remember, these two are on top of one another. Now Kenny Campos hard into the outside wall in turn 1. Back-to-back single car spins that are going to result in DNFs. And that Coors car totaled for Campos. A lot of drivers trying to run on the ragged edge as of right now. We got 3 cars all under a blanket. Another one spinning around there. I think that may have been Carl Childress, who has got it clearly beat up inside of that Wrangler Jeans Camaro. But it's Sims showing the way with 25 to go. Rogers trying to track them down. Closed in by a couple tenths of a second on the back end of the 06, and I think Rogers might have a shot at getting this race lead here. Sims trying to put that 06 car down on the outside lane. Rogers, however, full throttling it through the corners. Lost a little bit of time going through 1 and 2. Real good apex corner there from Sims, and a real good exit as well. Putting a little bit of space in between themselves and Rogers. Rogers warping in and out there just a little bit. Going on board with Zach Rogers here in car number 88. Take you around the Lady in Black. Darlington Raceway. Tate Dorsey edition. Shout out to Tate Dorsey for incredible edit to an already incredible raceway. Past the Earnhardt Towers goes the field. Sims tracking up the racetrack just a little bit. Here comes a big run out of Rogers. Trying to draft off the back end of that 06 machine, and we look from the back end of Jelaine Sims. 21 laps to go here from the track Too Tough to Tame. Rogers getting a little bit of a run there on that 06. Now we look from the back end of Tyler Stallhood. See the two leaders in a clean-out dogfight right now. Sims to the inside of Stallhood. Same thing with the 88. Here comes a run from Rogers potentially. Not quite there just yet, but is just trying to carry a lot of speed to the outside. Here comes a crossover from Rogers off the corner. Oh, he's going to have a lot of room to run, but not going to be able to get a ledge to the inside of that 06. 20 to go here from Darlington. Dogfight for the race lead between Zach Rogers and Jelaine Sims. Brendan Whitford, next car on the chopping block to put a lap down. Stallhood into the outside wall off of turn 4. And Rogers running right on the rear bumper of that 06 machine. This IndyCar, we'd say right on the gearbox, but this ain't IndyCar. This is full-fledged stock cars here on America's oldest super speedway. And Zach Rogers, who was not running a throwback scheme, trying to pull a Carl Edwards from 2015 and win the PPG Paint Southern Classic with a non-throwback car. Here he comes to the inside of Jelaine Sims, a little bit up the racetrack. Sims trying to carry the momentum on the outside. It's no use as Zach Rogers to the race lead in car number 88. And with just under 20 to go, that may have been the race for the win. Hyde and Bell on top of one another. Houston, what a save out of Bell. Saved by the bell, if you will. What a save out of the driver of that 92 machine. Wrecking loose off of turn 4, and you saw the gloves going this way and that, and was fortunately able to save that Shiori Novella throwback scheme. Hyde trying to duck down to the inside of the 92, and the caution flag is back out. Yellow is out. Somebody going around. It's RJ Bishop in turn 2. So with under 20 to go, we're never going to get this through the field done. Tala Aziz down the pit lane as well for our 4th caution of the evening. RJ Bishop going around, and this is where the money stop is going to commence here. This is where we're going to see these guys try and gamble a little bit. Hey, we're not in the Sin City anymore like we were for Sportsman last Friday night. We got quite a few drivers ready to gamble. And gamble, we thought that Vincenzo Focusato was going to stay out there and get a couple of laps led. Stallhood currently 2 laps off of the pace right now. So all the drivers that are on the wave around going up, and here we are. This is the money stop for these drivers. Ran about 15 laps on that run. I'm trying to remember. I think we get, yeah, about 16 even. So we'll see what these guys are going to do. Does anybody take 2 tires? Does everybody take 4? How about Dunn LaPrade being back on the league lap? He is in 7th. After a problem on the opening lap of the race, LaPrade has been able to claw his way all the way back. Race off the pit lane is tight, but I believe Rogers got it, and he did. LaPrade will lose a couple of spots in the process. We're talking about him, but that was the money stop right there. Zach Rogers and his pit crew getting it done. But now for the restart. That is going to be big, but we're going to go ahead and see what happened to put us under a race-changing caution flag here tonight. And I believe this was triggered by RJ Bishop in the corner Oh, no. There's where the multi was hit. And speaking of hit, we're going to see a Jeff Gordon throwback. A little bit crunched here in turn number 2. Z is getting a Darlington stripe on the outside wall. Brings it back down the racetrack. And just like we saw with Rich Roy and Apollo Hyde, all the way back in caution number 1. Nowhere for the 28 car to go. I think that wasn't Roy and Hyde. That was Roy and Whitford, I think. Or Roy and Warren. So Aziz spinning that 14 car around. RJ Bishop around in turn number 2. And the yellow flag flies for the 4th time tonight. A game changer for all of these guys. And we'll get one more look at it here. From the POV of RJ Bishop, throwing it back to his old man Ron Bishop's modified car from 1996. Fortunately, modifying the front end of that machine just a little too much. Pulls a quick 180 in. Look at that Mustang. Back ramrod straight. But Bishop back here for these guys. We'll go to the tail end of the field. And a couple of cars on the tail end of the lead lap that will go around the pace car. So you know what? While we got a moment, it is a sponsored segment, and we're not going to be able to do it with 13 laps to go. But while we have the moment, we will go ahead and take our snap-on race break and go through the field here, presented by Fram. Zach Rogers leads the way in car number 88. Jelaine Sims is second. Apollo Hyde is third. Kirsten Bell fourth. Nikki Conti rounded out the top 5. Don LaPrade gained a spot on the pit lane. He is 6th. Tate Dorsey is 7th. Crystal Bennett 8th. Carl Childress in 18th. Vincenzo Focusato in 9th. Blake Warren rounds out the top 10. 11th is RJ Bishop. 12th, Emmy Schizzotto. 13th will be Brendan Whitford. Actually, 12th is Stallhood. 14th is Ike Durbin. 16th, Rich Roy. Yeah, that will do it. Cars that were on the tail end of the lead lap will go back to the front. It's the choose cone here for these drivers. Jelaine Sims will take the inside lane. Rogers will take the outside. This is going to be a very bold strategy, but we've seen this work for Rogers already tonight. Saw it work right on the initial start of the race. Didn't quite work on that first restart. As he and Apollo Hyde were swapping the race lead like a couple of brokers trading some stocks on the floor of Wall Street. And an issue for Crystal Bennett. Not sure what happened there. A couple of cars spinning out, or rather tapping the brakes just a little bit. I don't know if that was a random engine failure for Bennett, but that is going to be a tough break for Crystal. They're running in 4th. Right, that was Kirsten Bell. I made the same mistake earlier. Crystal was running in 8th. But here we go. 12 laps to go when we cross back through the Reese's restart zone. Zach Rogers has led the most laps tonight with 40. Jelaine Sims trying to get the jump. One of the most dominant drivers trying to make a run for the championship. Apollo Hyde on the outside of row number 2. Kirsten Bell on the inside. Grab the 6 shooters, boys and girls. It's going to be a 12-lap shootout from the lady in black. Green flag back out in the air. 12 to go, and a little bit of a stall there from Rogers. He's able to get it going. Around, nearly going Bell. Another fantastic save by the Bell. But it'll cost them. And here we are for the race lead. Rogers on the outside lane will take it. Apollo Hyde getting squirrely, and how about that from LaPrade? Having pedal issues at the start of this race, and trying to bring that Hershey's machine all the way up into a podium finish. But Zach Rogers just trying to check out of Dodge right now. What can Jelaine Sims do? 11 to go. Carl Childress on the outside wall in turn 4. He is out of harm's way. We continue to remain green. 4 cars under a blanket, and here comes Jelaine. They know that now is the time to be aggressive. Everybody on fresh Goodyear Eagles to the end of this contest. What can Sims do to try to get around this 88 machine? What could LaPrade do as well? He is up to third. He is very much in contention for this win here tonight. Sims with a real good run off of the corner as they rip around the outside wall. Not able to get to the outside of the 88 of Rogers with 10 laps to go. All 10 digits being displayed from the flag stand. Now it'll be 9 this time by. Rogers has got the jump. Sims is trying to find that good lane around that 88 car. 4 cars in contention for this race win. Focasato is going to battle with Nicky Conti for a 5th place run. Hyde might fall out of this battle just a little bit. Given Sims and Rogers having a really good racing background, up the racetrack went Sims. LaPrade was looking for a corner or for a lane that shut immediately. 8 to go. Oh, Warren nearly a little bit squirrely there with Tate Dorsey. Rogers is trying to check out. Sims now fighting a 2-front war with that 74 car of LaPrade, who's just trying to gun for a lane inside, but here comes Hyde. LaPrade now fighting that war on both sides of his race car. He's trying to play offense and defense simultaneously in that Camaro, and it is Camaros 1, 2, 3 at the front of this field. You got a Honda and a Mazda, and a Ford to round out the top 6-pack with 7 to go from the lady in black. Zach Rogers won the final 2 races of season 6 at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and Iowa. What can he do here tonight, trying to get 3 wins in a row? 6 to go for the Zach man. Tyler Stallhood pulling that 7 car down to the inside of the race leaders in that Jeff Bodine throwback. Meant to bring it up during the race before all hell broke loose in the mid stages, but the importance for that throwback for Tyler Stallhood is that race win that Jeff Bodine had back at Watkins Glen. That was the first time that crew played the strategy game backwards. That really set up the modern road course strategy play for the NASCAR Cup Series, of course. And that was until stage racing completely ruined it. Jelaine hard into the outside wall. That's going to be a good run for LaPrade. Side by side for second with 5 laps to go. LaPrade will take that spot away from Sims into the outside wall, nearly into Hyde. They touched fenders for a brief moment, and Sims will fall outside of the podium. Now, is there enough time for LaPrade to potentially catch up to the 88 car? I don't know. Rogers has dominated this race, led the most laps at 50 tonight. And we're past the point of no return. You're wrecked now, that's it. No cautions from here on out. No racking them up as Childress and the 29 of Rich Roy nearly taking each other out there. 3 laps to go. LaPrade right in the tire tracks of Rogers and Hyde. Looking to hold on to a solid podium finish in that 16 machine. I think Sims used up a lot of her stuff on that run. That's a very, very tough break. Someone going around in front. It was RJ Bishop through the smoke. Days of Thunder style, or the 88, the 74, and the 16. Sticks high in the air. 2 laps to go from Darlington. The gap right now, half a second between Rogers and LaPrade. Rogers rimming all the way on the inside lane. LaPrade trying to find any ground that he can. Lap and a half to go. Stallhood into the outside wall. A couple more drivers with issues. Turns 3 and 4. Everybody moving out of the way for the race leaders. White flag is out. One more time around the lady in black. Ike Durbin nearly a little bit loose on the front straightaway. He'll keep that 86 car out of the way and out of mind. LaPrade into the outside wall. Everybody moving out of the way of the race leaders, but it's going to be the Zach man through turns 3 and 4, dominating this race flag to flag, and coming off of turn number 4. 3 wins in a row for Zach Rogers. He'll get the job done here at Darlington. Not quite leading from flag to flag, but he pretty much did. 53 laps led for the driver of that number 88 machine. A non-throwback car wins the throwback race, a la Carl Edwards 2015. Zach Rogers getting the job done. It was an incredible effort at the end for Don LaPrade, just coming up about half a second short. Apollo Hyde in the 16 will round out the podium. You'll hear from all 3 of those drivers here in just a couple of moments, but burning it down on the front straightaway, Zach Rogers, 3rd win in a row here in the Fuel Grand National Series. That month-long break didn't mean jack for him. He is back, baby. And I tell you what, the way that he ran tonight, that is going to be one heck of a championship run. That is one heck of a burnout right there for the Zach man. Veteran racer here in the NR2003 community, and also hell of a good broadcaster last night for whenever he can for the Fuel, or rather the Hobo Racing League, and just one absolute hell of a race here tonight for all of these guys. You take a look at your official standings. Quite a few drivers ended up retiring from the race. 9 cars finished the race on the lead lap. Zach Rogers, John LaPrade, Apollo Hyde, your podium. Jelaine Sims and Vincenzo Focasato held on to round out the top 5. Tate Dorsey, Nicky Conti, Emmy Schizzato, Blake Warren, and R.J. Bishop, the top 10. Everybody on beneath them finished out of the lead lap or in the garage area here after a fantastic race at the Darlington Raceway. Zach Rogers not missing a beat. He is your winner of the PPG Paints Southern Classic here at the Darlington Raceway, but we're only 2/3 of the way done through tonight's coverage. Fuel Grand National Series here on the North American Sim Racing Network. We're going to take a brief timeout, and when we come back, it'll be time for our post-race interviews here after a fantastic race at the Darlington Raceway. Zach Rogers winning tonight's contest here at the Lady in Black. We'll be back here in just a couple of moments here on the North American Sim Racing Network, live from the Darlington Raceway.
back to the booth. I'm not going to sit here and listen to your interview. Go up to the booth. Do it one-on-one, please. Thank you.
Channel switched. User was moved to your channel.
And we are back here at the Darlington Raceway, kicking off our post-race interviews after a fantastic season opener from the Lady in Black, and taking time to talk to our three podium drivers here, starting, of course, with Apollo Hyde, the pole sitter for tonight's race. Paul, you got a copy of us here in the broadcast booth?
Certainly do, Trey.
Well, you're able to win the pole here for tonight's 92-lap feature, and you were able to be the fastest in practice as well. But Darlington, it is certainly quite a different beast compared to a lot of different tracks. You know, you've got the two corners at oblong angles and oblong angles at the opposite sides of the track. You've got all the tire wear. You've got the very thin line. Coming into tonight's race, looking to mount a charge at potentially defending your championship for the last couple of seasons. What was the mindset coming into tonight, just going into a track like Darlington to open up the season?
Well, first off, Trey, I just want to say that I want to thank everybody that came out to the GNS race tonight at Darlington. We had 25 people start this race, which is one of the largest crowds that we've ever had. And I want to thank you and Blake for hyping this race up to high heaven to get such a crowd to come out. I'm really happy for everyone that ended up showing up. And, you know, this is always a race of attrition. This is always going to be a race that's not won on speed, but it's won on the margins. And it's just who happens to be in the right place at the right time. And this is just a race. I mean, it is so difficult to put a full race together at this track. And I just wanted to have a full and complete race where I didn't have any mistakes. And I don't feel like I had a single mistake tonight. Maybe there were a couple of spots where I conceded positions where I probably shouldn't have, but those are really minor mistakes. I think I would have finished third regardless.
Well, definitely a lot of competition here tonight. Like you said, a 25-car field, by far the biggest that we have had at all here on the North American Sim Racing Network for any sort of level here on the Fuel Racing League. So glad to see pretty much the entire server coming out for tonight's race. But the first half of this race, literally the first half, was completely green flag. You had a couple of incidents here and there, but literally the second we got into the halfway point, I was about to do my sponsored segment that I had with Blake right as the caution came out, and then it seemed like the race kind of slowed to a crawl a little bit. So after that, I think it was the third caution coming out right off of a restart. I think everybody in the field realized that, hey, we could potentially make it to the end here on a tank of gas, but your initial strategy was a little bit of an undercut. Did that affect your strategy at all, those cautions?
I don't feel like that really affected my strategy, and I don't even really feel like what I did was an undercut. I just saw 92 laps, and I divided it by 3, and that's when I pit. So I guess a couple other people wanted to run a little bit longer, maybe to have a tire advantage in the last stint. I think that would have been really cool to play out. I had a 4-second lead, 3.5-second lead over Zach when that yellow came out. So I think that if we were to stay green, it would have been really interesting to see how Zach's tire advantage would have played out in the last like 20 laps of that stage. It would have been really awesome to see. But unfortunately, chaos reigned supreme, and I just wasn't able to. I wasn't able to keep track position. My car was not really a short run car. This was a car that was really good in the long run, especially in like the last 5 laps of that tire run. My car just felt invincible. This is probably the best car I've ever driven at Darlington. The boys at the shop really set me up with a rocket, and I couldn't be happier.
Yeah, there was just an absolute rocket out there, like you said. And, you know, we'll give you the floor here real quick to talk about delivery on this rocket, throw it all the way back to a very particular and kind of out-of-the-box throwback here, so we'll give you the floor to talk about tonight's throwback.
Of course. So tonight's throwback, for anybody that is familiar with the Gran Turismo series, would instantly recognize this car. It's the Castro Mugen NSX. Let me pronounce that correctly. That ended up winning the JGTC championship overall in 2000. And this was one of Honda's most dominating seasons overall. I think only 2007 was better. And 2007 was actually the only season in Super GT history where a GT500 team clinched the championship before the final race. Every other season, there's been a race at the end, but this one was a very special car for Honda. After usually getting curb stomped in the late 90s by the giants of Nissan and Toyota, and finally they were able to break through. With honestly a gorgeous paint scheme. And what's actually even funnier is in 2000, there was actually 3 different teams being sponsored by Castrol at the time, one for each manufacturer, because you had the Castrol Supra, which Brad Keselowski famously just won with at Darlington not too long ago. And there was also a Castrol-sponsored Nissan ride, which I can't remember what team did that one off the top of my head. But there were actually 3 different Castrol cars in 2000, and they all had different liveries. Like the Supra was obviously white. You have mine, which is the green and the red, and you had the Skyline, which was a silver scheme. So Castrol was really big into sponsoring Super GT at the time, and I'm just glad I was able to make my car tonight just as fast as that 2000 Mugen NSX.
It definitely was, and that Mugen was absolutely moving around here, but going into the last couple of races of Season 6, we saw what Zach Rogers was capable of, and then coming into tonight, winning his 3rd straight race after the month-long break between seasons. He said that he's going to be trying to potentially run a full-time schedule here, depending on things, but if he is, what's the plan to potentially try and defend your back-to-back championships here so far in 2025?
Yeah, I mean, Zach's just in that upper atmosphere where he's just that guy. If I'm able to snipe a win or 2 off of Zach, that would be a huge accomplishment for me, or even just be able to beat Dunn a race or 2. That would be a huge accomplishment for me. Those 2, 99 times out of 100, they have my number, and the other 1 time out of 100, they crashed each other out at Pikes Peak. So, it is definitely an uphill battle for me here. I think that, honestly, once you also consider Jolene and Kirsten as well, who are both really rapid drivers in their own right, I think I'm probably the 5th or the 6th best driver here in the GNS season. So, honestly, anything better than that is really good for me.
And it definitely was. And, of course, before we'll let you go here, we'll give you the floor as we typically do to take a look. Just shout out anybody you want. Shout out any sponsors you got on the car. The floor is yours, Apollo.
Yeah, I've already shouted out the car, obviously, but I don't really have anything else to say other than, hey, come race with us Wednesdays, Fridays, nights. Wednesdays are open setup nights. Fridays are fixed setup nights, and we put on awesome races. So just come out and race with us. We want to see more people like this. I love this 25 car field.
Was certainly a jam-packed field here tonight. You were able to finish 3rd out of the 25. Paulo, congratulations on tonight's 3rd place run, and we'll see you next week at Watkins Glen.
I will try my best. I will not be at the Watkins Glen race, unfortunately. I do have another commitment, so I will be whatever race is next after Watkins Glen.
I think it might be Bristol. Let me double check.
Oh. Well.
No, it is Bristol. It's it's Watkins Glen, Bristol, Michigan. So that should be fun.
Track, so God help me. Okay.
Well, we'll see you at Thunder Valley here in a couple weeks, but
absolutely. Thank you very much, Trey.
Of course.
User was moved out of your channel.
That was Apollo Hine, driver of the number 16 Castrol Gran Turismo car. The Mugen Power Machine was absolutely moving here, and then we'll go to our 2nd place driver here in just a couple of moments. Trying to get that backed all the way up there.
User was moved to your channel.
And we'll bring in our second place driver piloting the number 74 Hershey's machine. Mr. Dunlop Prod, you got a copy of us here in the broadcast booth?
Yes, sir, I do.
Well, you certainly had an interesting beginning to this race, having an issue right on the parade lap. Went back on the Discord server, saw that you accidentally left your qualifying and happy hour tape on the car prior to the race, but you were able to battle back to an incredible second place run. But coming into tonight's race, the season opener for a brand new series of season of Sportsman, or the expectations coming into this season, starting off at a tricky track like Darlington?
Well, it's Darlington. It's about what you expected, like what we all saw tonight. Had a like you said, had a miscue early on, and I was, my setup was really good at qualifying, and I simply forgot to change the grill tape and other stuff with it. So I am an idiot for that, but luckily I was able to muscle my way through the race and hoping that there would be a caution. And then I didn't really get the caution that I really needed for a long time until I ended up getting my lap back. So fortunate to be able to have that happen to me and put myself right back in it. And yeah, I mean, Darlington, it's always a tricky track, no matter how you slice it. I mean, each turn is different. Turns 1 and 2 is longer, while turn 3 and 4 is heavy brake and shorter. So, and with it being basically a 2-lane track because there's not enough room to make it 3 wide, there's very little room for error, for sure. But not a bad way to end off what was a very tumultuous first half and really the first 60 laps of the race, and ended up finishing second. So I will take that any day.
You definitely will. And again, you mentioned how this track is very technical and it eats up tires, but something else that we kind of like to eat up is your sponsor, Hershey's. We'll give you the floor to talking a little bit about your throwback here this evening. I understand it was a throwback to an NR series back in 2011, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's a throwback to Scott Stoyler's Hershey's car that he ran in the 2011 in an offline series on an all called TMS the Cup series, which shout out to Sign On 44 for that. Obviously, I think you all should check him out. His content, he's really good with that. One of my good buddies. It was just when I just saw that call, I just was like, this is the one that I should pick for my for tonight's race. And I'm very happy that I gave it a good showing and honored to be driving this beautiful livery, because I know for a fact that there was a lot of paint schemes in the TMS the Cup series and other series along with that, in other leagues and series along with that in general, that are always really, really awesome to see. So I'm happy to be able to put this paint scheme back on track and be able to put on a good show that it did.
Definitely put on one heck of a show here tonight, and of course going to Watkins Glen next week. You ran really well at the last Sportsman road course race we had at CCIR. What are your expectations going into the season after race number 1 and going into next week's race at Watkins Glen?
Well, unfortunately, I won't be there at Watkins Glen, and I'm not entirely sure how the rest of the season schedule looks like. I mean, it really just depends on. But I'm hoping to be able to participate in more races this season, but just have to wait and see how the schedule goes. And hate to be missing out on Watkins Glen, but it is what it is.
Well, hopefully you'll be able to grace your talents here on the Fuel Racing League a lot, because you absolutely drove the wheels off that 74 car, given the where you were a couple of laps down. You're able to battle back and finish second. Before we'll let you out of Dodge, you know the drill. We'll give you the floor to shout out any sponsors, anybody you want here on the North American Sim Racing Network. Floor is yours, Don.
Well, first and foremost, I want to thank you for broadcasting this race. Shout out to Tyler Starhood for the league. Shout out to everyone that is part of this league, and shout out to everyone that raced tonight. We all had a wonderful race, had a really fantastic time tonight. Shout out to Team EFR. If you know, you know. And shout out to everyone else for making me the better driver, and shout out to Zach Rogers on another great and fantastic win.
Yeah, and you were just one spot short of the win here tonight, but nonetheless, a fantastic result, all things considered. I don't think you'll be punching your toilet after a good finish here tonight, will you?
No, nope. I'm feeling better now, so I'm fine.
That's awesome to hear. Dunn, congrats on a second-place run. We'll hopefully see you on the flip side here on the Fuel Racing League.
Thank you.
User was moved out of your channel.
And we will finally bring our final driver here in just one moment.
User was moved to your channel.
Rounding out the driver, the top 3 finisher interviews here this evening, driving the number 88 Digital Storm Machine, Mr. Zach Rogers, a man that has been very hard to beat. You got a copy of us here in the broadcast booth?
Yeah, I got you, Trey.
Well, you certainly drove a fantastic and near flawless race wire to wire. And right on the jump, you were able to take the race lead away from Apollo Hyde, who sat on the pole. And you can really do that at a track like Darlington. So coming into tonight at a track like Darlington, like we typically see, what's the mental mindset as a veteran driver coming to a track where, you know, you've got the 2 different corners. It's a very technical track. So what was the strategy coming into tonight's contest?
Yeah, you just got to keep the tires on it. It's more of a excuse me, my cough is acting up. It's more of a drive the track than a race your competitor's track. So you just kind of got to bide your time and, you know, keep your tires on you the best you can if that's the route you're going to take. And, you know, hope that, you know, it kind of just comes to you. So I kind of pushed my stuff, I think, a teeny bit too much on the first stint. I was getting all out of shape, and there was so much chaos going on. It was kind of hard to focus in all the way. So I got the wall once. Apollo almost got me, and then got the wall again pretty bad, and Apollo was able to go by. So
yeah, but it definitely all worked out in the end as you were able to lead 50 laps out of 92 here tonight. But the middle stages of that race was where things really changed, because out of that, coming out of that that initial pit cycle right at the midway point through the race, you were about maybe, I think, 3 or 4 seconds behind the leaders of both Nunez and Hyde, and then all hell breaks loose, and you were able to get the race lead back. So how much do you think that really contributed to your success here tonight?
Sorry, can you repeat the question? I was coughing up a lung and I couldn't really hear you.
No, you're good. So with all the chaos we had right at the midway point, you were the one who definitely took the biggest advantage of it, being able to take the lead, race lead from Apollo right off of the restart. So how much do you think that helped you in that moment?
Oh, I didn't really get him at first, and then there was a little debate about when a yellow came out, and that was kind of confusing and frustrating, but I ended up just giving it back because we were going to be in the front row anyway. But I had a lot of wheel spin on the bottom, and I think it was better to be on the top. You still had wheel spin on the top, but it was really bad if you were on the inside. I don't even remember really how I got back by Apollo. I think I got lucky. There was a yellow where a couple people took 2 and some strategy happened, and I think Apollo got held up or something, and I was able to get by him. Or no, I got a run on him, and he just kind of let me take it, and that was pretty much it from there.
Definitely was. And then, of course, round 2 between you and Jelaine Sims were pretty much the entire back third of this race. You know, Jelaine nearly had your number there, but you're able to creep up on the back end of the 06 and easily pass them right before that final caution. We saw you guys battling it out at Darlington, and how close do you think Jelaine is going to be if they potentially run this entire season like you?
Is it Jolene? I thought it was Jolene.
I think it was Jelaine.
Well, so they're my teammate, so they were given my setup. I don't know how many changes they made to it or not, or she made to it or not, but she's part of Team Velocity, so she had the same stuff as me for the most part there. She was just lacking a little something on the long run. So I knew, once I got by Kirsten, I just had to kind of get the right run, and she fought me a little bit. It felt like going into one when I got to her inside, and then she kind of, I don't know if she really let me just go or if she just got tight. She might have just got tight because it can be pretty tight when you get up against the wall in 1 and 2. So, yeah, it was really fun though, especially there on the last restart. We were side by side through 1 and 2, and I was glad I picked the top because I wasn't sure if the bottom was going to be the way to go, but I was glad to pick the top because I was able to just keep my foot in it pretty much the whole 1 and 2 on the restart, and that let me take the lead. And then thankfully it went green because the last thing I wanted was another restart because it was going to be probably not worth it to pit and heat cycle like 10% worn cold tires were going to not be fun on the next restart. So I'm glad that didn't come to that.
Definitely did, and definitely worked out for you a lot in the end. Of course, before we'll let you go here, we'll give you the floor to shout out anybody you want here on the NASRN Air. If you want to shout out a sponsor, whoever you want, the floor is yours, Zach.
I got to shout out you first for, of course, the broadcasting, and shout out Blake for sponsoring the race. He told me what the prize was for this, so I'm looking forward to getting that. Got to thank Tyler, of course, for hosting the league. I'm looking forward to running Watkins Glen next week. It's in a track I made back for season 1. So there'll be a ton of tire wear for Watkins Glen that people don't usually see on NR, unless it gets changed in the next week. But I'm thinking it'll probably stay the same. So that'll be a ton of fun. So looking forward to that next week, as road courses are my bread and butter. I gotta thank Cody Lamas for the paint scheme, of course. He's been great giving me schemes over the years. So. And, yeah, that was fun.
It definitely was, and you certainly had a blast out there. Zach, thanks for coming on here for the post-race show. We'll see you next week at Watkins Glen.
Damn it.
User was moved out of your channel.
That was Zach Rogers, driver of the number 88 Digital Storm Chevrolet for Team Velocity, and we will have one more interviewee here this evening if we can try and get back there. Come on. No. Game kind of doesn't want to work, I think. All right, we'll go there. All right, so this was a special event here, race tonight, and this evening would not be possible without Blake Warren, and we bring him here in the broadcast booth for our final interview of the evening. Blake, you got a copy of us?
Got a copy 10-4.
Well, first things first, this entire weekend was just absolutely amazing that you were able to put off here for the PPG Paints Southern Classic. All the throwback schemes, I think all but 2 cars in the field had a throwback scheme here tonight. And first and foremost, I just wanted to say, give you a round of applause for just the amount of work they were putting in with all the throwback schemes that you're painting at the 11th hour, all the renders that you did that we showed throughout the broadcast. So I just wanted to shout you out for all the hard work that you did.
Well, and I also want to say a very kind thank you as well. I've been sick all of this week, so having someone to help with at least painting some of the schemes or getting TGAs to be able to build them into the render, having to do it all on my own, especially by the 11th hour, was starting to make me go nuts. So having someone who can help me all the same, you were just as equally helpful to me in the pursuit of this very colorful and PPG-inspired field.
It definitely was. And again, like you said, the amount of colors that we saw here this evening were just paramount. But the race itself, as we were taking a look around the car here, you certainly got into a lot of trouble. You got a couple of Darlington stripes on both sides of the car. You got the rear end smashed in. The lady in black was not too nice for you tonight, Blake, to really say the least.
Well, the funny thing is that to me, I think I did more detrimental stuff earlier on uh, than the lady coming and smacking me in the face. The hilarious thing is just, hey, the car hit the wall a decent number of times, but still kept running, still didn't slow up all that much, and the tires didn't burn out as bad as I thought they would. So yeah, while the Budweiser Speedway Classic definitely has some battle scars and some heavy ones after that, you know what? All I can simply say, and not looking to stir up any fights or fisticuffs, you know what? The fact that we were on contention and had the speed to be a top 5 car, that feels like a win to me tonight. I knew that there were a few other people like Zach or Apollo, um, probably Tyler for that matter. I knew that there were going to be people who were not only fast in keeping it out of the wall, but even faster than what I could do. Uh, to be completely honest, with how the fact that I missed qualifying for one, so I had to start so far back. I went a lap down. Cautions managed to cycle me back up. I I led some laps under yellow. Okay. Tonight, especially being the sponsor of the race, this feels pretty good. So
Definitely did. Not quite as good for the car, as like you said, he got a lot of bottle scars around that Budweiser Speedway Classic machine. But you will take it home to a top 10 finish, finishing in ninth, if I'm not mistaken. But
yes.
looking ahead to this entire season, we got 10 more races on the schedule, and right next week, Watkins Glen. I know that you have some mixed feelings about that track, if I'm not mistaken. Hopefully, more on the good side, but. What are your expectations personally going into the 7th season of GNS competition, and more specifically Watkins Glen next week, which is, if we get as many people as we did here tonight, that is going to be a barn burner, to say the least.
Well, I can certainly say this. It really depends on what Watkins Glen we use. If it's like the more modern version where turn 1 is all pavement and not grass, yeah, that type I can be able to run a heck of a lot harder on, and I actually enjoy that. Um, Watkins Glen is not easy, and road courses in general are not my forte. But Watkins Glen, it being there, even regardless of the version, at least is a more familiar track. Mid Ohio is going to be more interesting a little bit later on. Don't have a lot of practice there, but hey, that's probably going to be the closest to home for me for that. But the only other thing I'll say is, at least for my whole thoughts on the whole entire season, we started all the way back in February, and we've done pretty good. I think we got a top 5 in points the first season, so season 5. We've slipped back a little bit in season 6, but certainly was on path to potentially win a race or two. And for me, hey, season 7 is just building on that momentum.
It definitely is, and like we typically do here on the North American Sim Racing Network in the post-race show, we'll give you the floor to shout out anybody you want here on the NESRN airwaves. The floor is yours, Blake.
Just simply want to say thank you so much for wanting to come out and broadcast the race. I was listening to it the entire time I was driving in my headset, so kind of keep an update even with a little bit of delay as to what y'all were saying. And I really want to give a massive shout out to everyone who ran tonight. Zach Rogers, I know, didn't run a throwback, but you know what? In fairness to him, that is not a scheme that I've seen before. So it's a debut scheme. It counts for something. Um, but I really am just so happy with everyone working together to, even though that this was not my official throwback race, nobody took the idea and said, nah, I'm not doing that. everyone was so supportive of this and so happy to do this. And I think that positivity, that means more to me than a poor finish. So really, everyone in Fuel, thank you for being so friendly and team working on all this. It was great.
It certainly is a family here in the Fuel Racing League, and just another shout out to you for putting together just an absolute banger of a week. The only gripe that I had was the sponsored segment for the race break. We had to get in under caution because of all the shenanigans at the end, but other than that, just an absolutely fantastic job out of you, and hey, we'll see you for the rest of this season, starting with Watkins Glen on Wednesday.
Absolutely, and I am looking at actually sponsoring the final race of the season at Homestead, Miami. Probably not going to be as flavorful as this one necessarily in terms of the work put in, or the desire for the work put in, but it still is going to be pretty creative all the same.
Definitely will. We cannot wait for that. Blake, congratulations on a 9th place finish, and we'll see you next week in the Finger Lakes region of New York.
Yeah, thank you so much, Trey. Thank you again for putting on such a good show. Much appreciated.
Of course.
User was moved out of your channel.
That will do it for tonight's broadcast here from the Darlington Raceway. And oh boy, what a race that was. As well, that's the ticker for the offline stuff here, just trying to I meant to take a picture of the top finishers for this race and trying to see if I have it somewhere on my phone, and I do. So your running order from top to bottom: Zach Rogers getting the job done, winning this race by a half a second over Don LaPrade. Apollo Hyde finished in 3rd. Jelaine Sims was 4th. Vincenzo Focusato rounded out the top 5. Tate Dorsey, Nikki Conti, Emmy Schizzato, Blake Warren, and R.J. Bishop, your top 10. Ike Durbin, Tyler Stolhood, Kirsten Bell, Rich Roy, and Brendan Whitford, 11th through 15th. Carl Childress was the last car on the racetrack to finish the race. Crystal Bennett finished in 17th in the garage area. Tala Aziz, Victor Nunez, and Kenny Campos, the top 20. Laura Trainer, Rafaela Sorensen, Trek Togger, Corbin Wentz, and Jesse Bowling, the top 25. 25 cars on the entry card here tonight, and hopefully that will not be the most cars that we'll see here this season, but again, want to give a big shout out to Blake Warren on the entirety of putting this entire week together, literally up until the 11th hour for this race. He was putting together renders for all of these cars here tonight. We had 23 throwback schemes running here this evening. I believe we had 22 renders done right until the beginning of this race, and just a big, massive shout out to Blake Warren for just an incredible job putting together a fantastic season premiere here at the Darlington Raceway. And that is going to pretty much do it. Oh, hit the wrong button there, unfortunately. But anyway, that is absolutely going to do it here from the Darlington Raceway. There we are. Going to do it here from the Lady in Black, the Darlington Raceway. Congratulations once again to the 88 of Zach Rogers for winning the PPG Paints 400 here at the Darlington Raceway. We'll be doing a tape delay here for our next race, the Fuel Racing League. The Sportsman race that'll be racing on Friday. We'll be broadcasting that tape delay style this coming Monday evening at 8 p.m. here on the North American Sim Racing Network. Actually, check that. That might be an 8:30 time. I'll have to double check that. And of course, our next Fuel Grand National Series race next Wednesday night from the Finger Lakes region of New York, Watkins Glen International. Race number 2 of the 11 race schedule for Season 7 coming at you with a 9 o'clock qualifying time, a 9:10 to 15 race start time. Of course, we'll go live on air about 10 to 15 minutes prior to the end of practice here exclusively on the North American Sim Racing Network. But good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen, from the Darlington Raceway. On behalf of the Fuel Racing League and everybody on the North American Sim Racing Network, my name is Trey Wright. Have a great evening, folks. We'll see you next week from the Finger Lakes region of New York at one of the greatest racing facilities in the United States, Watkins Glen International. Have a great evening and have a great Labor Day weekend.